Jonathan Lee Riches investigates. I am covering the Carlee Russell case. Chief Durzis, the chief of police for Hoover, Alabama, he speaks to WBRC. I want to share this interview with you, and we will further discuss. Chief shares a lot. The chief shares a lot, and he's also in a nice decked out suit. Check it out.
Police Chief of Hoover, Nick Durzis, joins us in studio this morning. Chief, good morning.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
First of all, your reaction to how quickly some of the state legislators have jumped on your thoughts at that news conference saying these charges should be tougher on Carlee Russell.
Well, I think not only the legislators here, but people around the country have emailed literally that day to say, I can't believe that that's all the penalty would be. I heard from several legislators on Friday within hours of that press conference. So it makes us feel good that the general public does think that this is a little ridiculous when you consider those 49 hours that she was gone and all the expense and local and state and federal law enforcement officials that were looking for, and thank goodness we were able to make that she made it home safe, that it would be like someone going out and shoplifting less than $500 worth of merchandise. It's the same penalties. And I think when people see that there's got to be some sort of enhancement, that when you fake a kidnapping or some type of violent crime, there's got to be additional penalties for it.
Tell us the resources. Give us a little bigger picture, though, the resources that are activated when something like this happens, because we know the federal government, the FBI gets involved anytime you're talking about an abduction or kidnapping.
Sure. We called out the Army literally that night because, of course, the girl was on, Carlee was talking to 911. All of a sudden, she's talking to an aunt. The phone goes dead, hears a little scream. Our officers get up there a couple of minutes later. No Carlee, no baby. That's what obviously said was a baby on the interstate. And obviously we started calling out other shift members, detectives, our drone operators. Ended up calling the county. We got to get dogs up here. Made calls to the federal government. The next morning, the Secret Service got involved with getting the telephone to try to find out what we could on that telephone that was left on the side of the road itself. So again, it's all hands on deck, and we take that real serious when a crime we think has occurred.
How quickly and how much time had passed before you and your colleagues started to realize this probably is a hoax? Did that happen shortly, or walk us through those few hours?
Well, initially when I got the phone call at home, I was home and they called and said, we've got this situation that's just occurred, and talked about the baby on the interstate. A little skeptical in myself, baby on the interstate, that we didn't get into the calls. But I've known over my long career that you never say never, because things that sometimes I thought, that's a little strange, ends up obviously being true. So we took that very serious. I guess really when we started really getting skeptical was when we got the video of the interstate that showed pretty much the vehicle traveling, and then especially the distance that it traveled. And then it took about 24 hours before, or maybe less than 24 hours, when we started getting the extraction from the cell phone. And we started seeing the things like, Amber Alert, taken.
The searches that she had
made. And then, of course, then you really start thinking, wow, this doesn't make any sense.
Chief, I know you mainly deal in facts, so this is going to be a hypothetical. But let's just say, for instance, the family did not go on a morning network show. And she came out immediately after that. Public apology, I'm sorry I exhausted all these resources to try to find me. Would you think the charges still would have been levied against her? Would you still have pursued those? Well,
again, that's all hypothetical, so it's kind of hard for me to answer because that's not the way it occurred. So it's kind of tough.
What prompted you then to seek out the State Attorney General's office for help on this?
Well, obviously we had talked to the District Attorney, Lenise Washington. First of all, we felt like since this became not only national but international story, that it made more sense to go to the county, even though it's a misdemeanor, and let them prosecute instead of us, since we've done all the investigation and then prosecuted ourselves. So we talked to Lenise Washington; she was on board. And then we talked to the clerk of the Bessemer Division. She decided that it made more sense to go back to Hoover, and they did not want to issue a warrant, send it back for our people. So I felt like then it just made sense that since they didn't want to issue the warrant, then they probably shouldn't prosecute it. So if we're going to do the misdemeanor in our court, It just, to me, made sense to let the state attorney general, let them prosecute it and kind of get us out of the prosecution business.
You had, after that network interview that Mike referenced, you said you started getting contacted from all across the country. People thinking there was a kidnapper on the loose in the city of Hoover, and the Hoover Police Department wasn't talking about it.
Sure.
Your reaction to that?
Yeah, well, I think after that national interview came out and they said yes, that there had been a kidnapping. There was no question about it. That it was time that we started bringing out the facts. And like I said, we laid out the facts that day and let everybody make their own opinion. But my opinion at that press conference was that this did not happen the way they said it did.
I know you have a job to do, and y'all do it well, but it can't help but get personal sometimes, I would imagine. How personal did this feel to the whole Hoover Police Department?
Very, very personal. I mean, we're a department that if a crime takes place, any type of crime, we take it personal. Because we don't want anybody doing anything to anybody that lives in our city or visits our city. We want to be a safe place. And when that comes out, especially that particular night, the adrenaline starts flowing on the police officers that are showing up, the guys that are coming out, the drone officers. So everybody now thinks that a kidnapping is taking place. And you get hyped up. Your adrenaline, the blood's flowing, your heart's pumping. And when you're out searching, you don't really know what you're searching for or what you're going to find. And it's a tough scenario to go through that and then all of a sudden find out that everything that we did was really for naught. I mean, it did not happen.
But what a strange emotion it must be. Everyone certainly wanted Carlee Russell to be okay.
Sure.
And she is okay.
Right.
So it's a balance, isn't it?
Oh,
being glad
absolutely.
she's okay, but then being angry that it was all a hoax.
Sure, but let me say this to you. Under the circumstances, I like the result here.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That she got home to her family, whatever issues that she's got, pray that they get handled. We'll move on. We've got other things. Still want to know some things. Still want to know. Where was she during those 49 hours?
So you don't know?
We don't.
So
We've not talked to her at all since the night that she returned home at the hospital. Detective's very small interview. We've not talked to her since. And those are the type of things that I would like to. I would like to know the end result of why.
I think a lot of people would know.
Yeah.
Do you believe she had help?
Well, again, we don't have those facts yet. The attorney's statement said that she did not. Where she was those 49 hours by herself, again, some questions that we hope that if they don't tell us, we hope that we figure it out ourselves, because again, we're still investigating.
Chief, because of the seriousness of the story, we didn't want to bring this up, but now that everything's out here and the state attorney general has taken over the investigation and the prosecution of this, but your fashion style became really a national story. So I'm just curious, how you felt about that, because I know you heard some of this reaction.
Well, I did, and again, I've dressed the way I've dressed for forever, and why all of a sudden it became a big deal, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm flattered that some people like it and probably others don't.
But fun to laugh about it now because everything's okay.
Yeah, thank goodness. Obviously, we would not be talking about this if things were not well, and it's been good. It's been fun, and people asking who my tailor is and so forth. So it's been an interesting couple of weeks for sure.
By the way, the suit game is on today as well.
With
the salmon. So,
Appreciate that.
all right.
It's Easter year round for you. It looks good. It looks really
As
good.
we wrap up, is there a message for the people of Hoover and all the other folks who wanted to help in this situation?
Well, as I said to begin with, it takes people with hearts to come out and be concerned and search for somebody that you don't know. And I think that shows a lot about our community. It shows a lot about the state of Alabama, that people are going to do this. And when people say, well, if this happens again, it's going to be treated just like it is just now. And it becomes a national, international story. It does. And all we want to do is to make sure, thank goodness, that she returned home and safe and sound. And again, it's great to live in a community where people care about people.
All right, that'll be the final word. Hoover Police.
Very, very interesting, right? So he still doesn't know where Carlee Russell was for those 49 hours, according to that report that I just shared. He also said he doesn't know if others are involved or not, because he just doesn't know. He basically shared his opinion about the matter, talked about all the law enforcement resources spent looking for Carlee. He also said that how can the penalty for what she did be the same as if someone stole $500? Like it's the It doesn't match up. Someone that steals $500 or less, up to $500, gets the same amount of penalty as calling 911 to report a hoax and drawing out hundreds and hundreds of law enforcement and hours of law enforcement searching around for a crime that does not exist. The fake toddler, the fake kidnapping. And you heard the chief. He said, he's glad that Carlee Russell is returned home safe. I think all of us are. But we want to know, where was Carlee Russell for those 49 hours? Appreciate the chief. The chief actually is a hero in most people's eyes. He's decked out in many suits during his press conference. And, he laid out the case from the beginning. He was suspect almost immediately, he said, after reviewing Carlee's car, the red Mercedes going down slowly, and then matching the phones and the phone pings, or the phone searches, searching for taken and different things about stealing money from a cash register. And then, the police used his intelligence and said, this is a bunch of BS. Now, what's going to happen with Carlee? Obviously, the chief also wants the Alabama legislature that is acting now to change the rules to make it more serious for anyone that reports a fake kidnapping. Basically, an enhancement. So Carlee Russell, basically at this point, a lot of us feel like the charges are very weak on her. However, I feel that she's going to receive the maximum penalty for this crime. So that was a great interview. WBRC. Subscribe to my channel, hit the notification button. Let me know what you think about the chief. If I'm ever around in the area, I might bring him some donuts. Appreciate their law enforcement. They let me in on the press conference inside the police department. Appreciate that, to cover it for all of you. We will talk soon. Stay tuned.